There, we advise you that communication be through the chair. You answer questions through the chair. Members ask questions through the chair. And we discourage an attempt to engage members directly. We will, after going through the preliminaries, give you 10 minutes for you to tell us the journey of your life to where you are. Thereafter, we'll have an engagement, and when we conclude, we'll give you another 3 minutes to recap what has transpired and your wish. In doing so, we want to ask you a few preliminaries in terms of documentation that you are asked to come with. If you have forwarded them to us, we will expect you to have the originals to show the Secretariat to compare with what they have. If there's anything additional, they will tell me to ask you. Tax compliance certificate from KRA, do you have?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I do have it.
The Higher Education Loans Board clearance, you have?
Yes, I do.
Clearance with the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission?
Yes, I do.
Certificate of Good Conduct from DCI?
Yes.
Have you ever been charged and convicted in a court of law of any offense?
No.
Are you a dual citizen of any sovereign other than Kenya?
No, my only citizenship is Kenyan.
What is your financial net worth?
Honorable Speaker, if you will allow me to call you so.
Yes.
My total net worth is 156 million Kenya shillings.
Segregated as?
It largely comprises of immovable assets. I have 3 homes, one in Nairobi, one in Narok town, and another one in my village. Motor vehicles. I have apartments in Narok and also one in Nairobi. Plots of land, 2 in Kitengela, and also dairy business, and my shares from the Parliamentary Cooperative Society, Pakosa.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So what are your current and anticipated sources of income?
At the moment, I anticipate to get my gratuity from Parliament after serving for 2 terms, as well as pension. Those are the only 2.
Okay. We will give you 10 minutes to make a short opening speech to tell this committee the journey of your life to where you are. If you take less than 10 minutes, the better.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. My names are Rosalinda Soipan Tuya. Born and raised in Narok County. And I must at the onset say that I'm honored and privileged to be among the presidential nominees for cabinet. I take it as, for me, being the first ever Maasai woman to be elevated to such a position. It is a position of privilege for which I'm grateful, and I know the amount of responsibility that lies on my shoulders in that regard. I am a 4th child in a family of 7. Typically growing up, typical village girl. I did tender to my father's cows and sheep alongside my older brother. I attended my primary school within Narok County in a school called Ololunga, or now Olentutu Arid Zone. And from the name, it's one of those institutions established under World Bank funding to support pastoralist communities. And I must say also that I finished my KCPE in that school and emerged as a top girl in the then Narok district. I proceeded on to my high school education in Moi Girls High School in Eldoret, but just for a short stint of 2 years, and had to transfer to the Kenya High School for health-related reasons, and completed my high school in 1998 from the Kenya High School. I proceeded to the University of Nairobi School of Law, where I graduated with a bachelor's degree in law in 2002, and immediately went on to the Kenya School of Law for the Advocates Training Program, where I acquired a diploma in law. And thereafter, in 2004, got admitted to the bar as an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. And a few years later, after working for about 5 years, I secured a scholarship to study a Master of Laws in Sustainable International Development in the University of Washington in Seattle, USA. Honorable Chair, and I must say at this point that I consider myself a product of opportunity. And I say this because my father happens to be the only one of his 15 siblings to have acquired an education. And the story is long, but even his having to go to school was by chance. And in that regard, then, there followed a series of opportunities for my siblings and I, including a few of close family members. But the reason I emphasize this is because I have hundreds of cousins and close family members who have not had an opportunity like I did, just because my father had a chance to go to school. And that has been a driving force for me, because having started off as the village girl that I spoke about, up to a point where I had an opportunity to study abroad on a scholarship, the only difference for me and countless other young girls, and particularly from my community, is opportunity. And that has always pushed me to be able to find a space for that next girl, because I know how important it is to afford somebody an environment to explore their potential. Honorable Speaker, coming to my career progress in terms of work, and I will relate it with the docket for which I'm nominated. I must state that my love and passion for environment again began at a very tender age. My father happens to be a very strict environmentalist. I remember growing in the village, I learned from a very early age the value of a tree, because you could not cut the branch of a tree from my father's homestead without his permission. And that set the pace for me to know the value of the environment, the value of trees. And my nomination comes at a time when I think Kenyans and the citizens of the world, we need to embrace environmental ethics if we are to save ourselves. My first job assignment was with a local non-governmental organization called Impedo, which basically focused on integrated pastoralist development initiatives. And I joined in as a legal officer, and one of my main assignments was public interest litigation, coordinating issues of land and environmental governance. And one of the cases that I got involved in at that early stage of my work was offering technical support and mobilizing resources to support the famous case of the Ilchamos community, centering around the effects of the prosopis plant, that invasive plant that has become a menace, not just for that community, but many other communities in this country. And I think with that early engagement, and it is coincidentally, at this point, it is an issue that we must confront as a country. And I think with my interaction then with fact-finding and establishing ways of making sure that these communities do not have to suffer the effects of an invasive plant for which they had no contribution to its existence, sets me in a good place to be able to find a once and for all lasting solution, not just for prosopis. We have many other invasive tree species, like the cactus in the north. We have the hyacinth, which is choking our water bodies, and many others. At that point, I also got to participate in various regional and international fora, still in the area of land and natural resource management and governance. This include the African Commission for Human and People's Rights at the regional level. I also got to participate in various fora of the UN Permanent Forum for Indigenous Peoples, including being a member of the Indigenous Women's Caucus that again focused on matters climate change and the role that women played in matters mitigation and resilience. My second job appointment, Honorable Chair, was in the Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs then. I got seconded to the ministry as a UN volunteer specialist, and most of my work revolved around providing technical support in the development of the then National Action Plan and Policy for Human Rights. I also got to engage in developing policy briefs focusing on Kenya's obligations arising from regional and international human rights instruments. And after that, I joined the Kituo cha Sheria. It's an access to justice organization. I joined in as a legal aid coordinator and then again served on a very brief stint as the acting executive director. Most of my work again centered on public interest litigation, supporting indigent Kenyans, and notable cases that we dealt with which relate to the docket for which I'm nominated. I dealt with a case in the Tana Delta ecosystem, focusing on the environmental impact of government projects in very fragile ecosystems. Another one was a matter concerning rampant cancer cases in Marsabit County, largely attributed to oil exploration initiatives in that region. And what we were looking at and prosecuting on behalf of the communities as an interested party, Kituo cha Sheria, was to make sure that we insisted on the sustainability of any initiatives that would be established within community lands. Another case that I remember is a case in Mutomo area of Machakos County, pitting the Mutomo residents against multinational mining companies, and again in the area of the health effects of the mining activities, as well as the benefits accruing and how they would support the communities. Honorable Speaker,
1 minute.
After Kituo cha Sheria, I got a chance to work with the USAID on 2 projects, one called the Promara and another one the Justice Project. I will ask for just 2 minutes and I'll finish. Promara, from its name, it's centered around the governance issues around the Mara River and the larger Mao Forest Complex. I got to interact with government agencies, community engagements on participatory forest management, and even the Water Towers Task Force then, which now is the Water Towers Authority or Agency. After working with the USAID, I made my debut in politics in 2012 and served for 10 years as the woman representative for Narok County. and also served in the National Assembly as the first chairperson of the Speakers Panel, duties which I believe I did to the best of my ability. Let me state that one of the things that I did as woman representative for Narok County was to encourage our communities to engage in expanding their horizons in terms of looking for alternative sources of livelihood rather than, depending only on the pastoralism, again, because of the adverse effects of climate change that we are seeing, which are destabilizing the economies and livelihoods of these communities. I also focused on assisting women to think about clean sources of, or rather green energy in the domestic cooking, purchase of improved cook stoves, and as well as briquetting, again, to divert attention from biomass fuel, which is largely what our local communities are consuming now, and it is coming to compromise the need for us to green our country. And right now, I'm serving as a nominated senator and nominated by the United Democratic Alliance. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Tuya. I'll now open the floor to members to interact with you, starting with the Deputy Speaker.